Good afternoon, everyone. We're the last presentation. I recognize that, so hopefully we will keep you engaged. My name is Tabor Lightfoot. I lead the User Experience and Design Services team in Yale ITS. And I'm joined by...
I'm Sylvia Perez, the user researcher of the same team.
My name is Jen Multi. I'm the User Experience Research Librarian at Yale University Library.
And we're here to talk to you today about Yale's first UX Research Lab. And the title of our talk, I hope people kind of picked up our play on the Lux et Veritas saying and sort of shield here. And I'm sure John Gamble would not approve of what we've done, but that's okay. But yeah, so sort of, it's light and truth, and here we're saying, UX and truth. So Sylvia, myself, and Jen are going to talk about the partnership today and sort of our journey together between IT and the library in launching this User Experience Research Lab. It definitely took some time, and we're super excited to share with you today that journey and what it looked like. So we'll talk a little bit about, as I mentioned, how we got things started. Both the library and IT sort of had, experienced challenges with our, testing with users around the community. So Sylvia will talk a little bit about that. The journey to actually opening the space and the research that we did. So a little meta, we had to do our own research to kind of determine, do we, really need this user research lab? So we spoke to some other folks at peer institutions. We'll talk about what we do there in the space and why it matters, and then how you guys can get involved, how you can leverage some of the services that we offer, and then sort of join our UX community here within the university. Welcome. So just talk about kind of how we came together. I've known Jen for a while, and I think we both realized that we were doing some similar things. So they were doing kind of user testing over in their world, among other things, and then we were doing user testing. And I think we would get together through the UX community of practice and talk about the different approaches and practices that we, were doing with respect to usability testing. Sylvia will talk a little bit more about the IT monthly user testing program, but at the time, we were sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily more mature than the library, but we had a little more operations kind of in place. So Jen was really interested in kind of picking our brains, and there was a lot of kind of exchange going on. And Jen was the one that sort of had this idea. Why don't we come together and, the library has space. Why don't we create an actual, place where we can do this research and sort of bring some validity, if you will, to this testing and make it so that we aren't sort of schlepping around campus, meeting the users where they are. So we embarked on putting together a proposal, which we framed around a pilot. We recognized that we couldn't just go to senior leadership and say, we need a lab. And they would say, oh, sure, here you go. Here's some money and do it. So we recognized that we had to, put together a proposal, that it would be something that we would have to, at some point go back and kind of, report up and say whether it was working or not. So that's sort of where we're at now. We're, about I think we're soon going to meet to talk about how things are going with our pilot, but that was sort of the gist of it. I would say individually, the library and the IT, we sort of have, our own individual strategic goals when it comes to user testing, and all of that, the proposal that we put together was a very, detailed report, defining those goals, but I think generally we agreed that, we needed a dedicated space, and I would say for IT, since we're on the sort of outside of campus, having something more centrally located was very appealing to us. But having a space that we knew would be a home for this kind of testing. We knew the space itself would help strengthen the collaboration amongst UX practitioners here within the community and get sort of those that are involved in the community of practice, it would sort of strengthen that that group, if you will. And then it also, I've seen this actually most recently, but I think it's the space itself and the work that we're doing there is really helping, kind of support the value of usability testing and UX as a whole here. I know within IT and then even within the university. So I think we are well on our way to, achieving these kind of, general goals. So Sylvia's going to talk a little bit about, before we started in on the proposal, kind of what our challenges were.
Oh, library. Okay. Put it down. All right. So actually, I'm going to talk about the library challenges first, and then Sylvia will talk about IT's challenges. So Tabor mentioned schlepping. The schlepper is me. I'm the schlepper. I was running, if you saw my talk yesterday, I run the usability testing program in the library, and that really consisted of me schlepping a laptop, a headset, a mouse, scripts, all kinds of things to a particular location, and booking that location and running basically all around the library trying to find spaces to do testing. And most of the time that happened in Bass, and a lot of times students would sort of steal my booked room, which was not great. So that challenge alone was enough to sort of make me say, oh, let's have a dedicated space. And again, like I was borrowing, begging, and not stealing, but borrowing and begging different pieces of equipment to support this usability testing program in the library, and dragging it all around. And so the challenges that we were facing in the library really kind of made it obvious that a lab was necessary.
So the obstacle that I faced were that much different than what the library faced. We're also not in a very ideal location. It's like all of this red is kind of like what the Yale campus covers. And over at ITS, for those of you who don't know, we're at 25 Science Park, which is like, it's a 15-minute walk from the library, and the rest is Central Campus. So we're kind of, where are we? We're all the way up here. Very commonly, like most of our clients are done in this area. We would be having to test over in the library. Very frequently, I would go to 17 Hill House. At that point, that was the most central location, but I was also sometimes going to the SSSI, which is like just right around here, right? Yeah. That was kind of a less common space. It was less known to people, so trying to pick a space that was available at the time had a lot of issues with participants being able to even make it on time or making a period. Sometimes because of spaces available, that's kind of the place that we chose, but it was very unknown to some people. So we had a lot of tests scheduled that didn't actually get completed because people weren't able to make it. And that's the same thing with Jen. Over in the library, you would feel bad trying to like reserve your room, and then students are camping out there during midterms or finals and having to kick them out for those half an hour sessions. We also had an issue where it's even we had issues sometimes with scheduling rooms with the scheduling service, where I would try and schedule it for a full day, but actually I was trying to make a little workarounds, and then just getting kicked out of rooms because it was over scheduling. That's another space. So our journey to opening the lab. In order to do this, we did our own peer reviews. We wrote a proposal, and then we got together a list of supplies to do this, to make sure that we have our most important products. We would actually start this room up. We went over to 3 places, and we'll kind of just each take charge of one. We went to MIT, Duke, and Harvard. MIT, we spoke to them over the phone, over the same with Duke, and Harvard actually has a physical location like us that we were able to go out and check. So for MIT, we spoke to Chris LaRoche. He's a usability consultant over at the university. They started with a lab, and currently they do not have that lab anymore. They sort of outgrew their lab as UX became more of a permanent presence at the university. They definitely identified that having that lab is what kind of helped their office kind kind of like take off and have you take off for that location for that university. And then over time, they found that a mobile lab was working best for them. They got their dedicated equipment and were able to transfer easily to other locations. So it may sound like we're already starting at that point, but they didn't feel like they got to that point until they had that physical space first. And you guys want to do
So we also spoke with Duke University Libraries and Emily Bailey, who is the head of assessment and user experience at the Duke University Libraries. So I'm in a similar group that Emily leads. My director is Sarah Tedesco, who is the head of assessment and user experience here at Yale. So that program is obviously based out of the library with a focus on virtual and physical spaces, and they started with a very small budget, and typically they had a lab for a brief period of time, but then ended up, as the program grew, just trying to sit out and be where all the students are to do their testing there. So again, their program had been running for a few years, and they eventually outgrew and no longer needed a lab.
And lastly, we visited Harvard, who, and I realized we took some great photos of their actual space. They're not in this presentation, but they have it's awesome. It's really awesome, that's all I can say. They have dedicated space. They have, amazing equipment and technology. Very expensive technology there. An eye tracking station. So we very much, knew that was not where we would initially start and what we would propose to leadership here. But it was really helpful to just kind of see the perspective of like the folks at MIT, kind of having one, not having one, to Harvard, fully operational, and having all the bells and whistles.
Okay. So what do we do in the lab now? We developed the proposal, did our peer reviews. We were allowed to do a pilot that ends on October something, and we'll be putting together a report on that. But what is it that we do? What will we be talking about in this report? So the library in this room, these are pictures of the lab. We primarily do usability testing, but in the future we will also use the room for user interviews and focus groups, design charrettes, similar to the things that we did during the baths renovation research phase, the research phase of the baths renovation project, and card sort exercises. And you can see here at this particular workstation, there's a microphone, so the library records all of their usability testing sessions for review later on. We keep our recordings up to a year. If you've done usability testing with us, that sounds very familiar. It's standard for everything that we do. So we have a typical, I think that's like a Yeti mic, which people use for podcasting all the time. And then we record people's voices and share the screen through Zoom. We use the methodology that I talked about in my presentation yesterday. Having the lab has been really helpful because I can keep all my consent forms there. I've got the equipment set up. I have a central space where people can go and meet me. I can hang out in there all day and do work and be ready for the student when they come to test. It's been awesome so far, and really an improvement by leaps and bounds.
So like Jen, I do mostly usability testing and user interviews. For usability testing, it's been especially helpful. Once a month, we offer a free service to the community where we offer we do usability testing sessions. So most of the time, I have probably 3 to 5 clients from around the university. So it was hard to find it's not possible for me to go to a location where their users are. Being at the library is the most central location so that everyone is able to easily accommodate their users and everyone has that same spot they go to. And then we also do user interviews, which again is very convenient. Having a space that everyone is going to get to know. People are just starting to learn it, we're getting more signage, and it's becoming more of a familiar spot. So we got less people getting lost, more sessions being able to get done. So why is it important? So so we can spend more time actually testing and spend less time like moving around. We're spending less time setting up, and it's more time we have to focus because if we are working on different other projects and we're not have to worry about resourcing our time to make sure like we're keeping like when we resource ourselves, we don't have to spend more time figuring out how we're going to set this up. We can spend more time focusing on the actual projects. We're hoping to make recruitment faster and more efficient by having a participant flow being set up. So we have signage right on the door of our lab. If anyone passes it by, instructing them if you want to participate in anything, you can go ahead and sign up at this website, which we have cards within the form if you guys are interested to see how that looks, or actually being a participant for studies. Which again just gives us more time to do testing.
Yeah. So when we talked about kind of Duke and MIT both outgrowing their lab, and so there's this concept of UX maturity of an organization. I think this is either Don Norman or I think I found it on the Nielsen Norman Group website. But this is a pretty well-known model that kind of charts the maturity of UX in an organization. Like how baked in is it? How intertwined is user experience and user-centered design in an organization? So the first step is UX is not important. Obviously, we're not there now, thankfully. Second is interested. UX is important but doesn't receive funding. 3 is invested. UX is very important and formalized. Programs emerge. And then it goes on from there. I would say that the lab really puts us at 3 at least, because we are investing time, energy, and money into formalizing usability testing programs. And I think that is just setting us on a path to really integrating user experience and the philosophy of user experience into the organization, which can only help us achieve the excellence that Yale is known for and strives for. And MIT and Duke have both kind of had their lab baked in UX into their organizations. MIT is like an all-remote operation now. All they do is test remotely because the need for UX and the recognition of UX as a necessary component of any project or product is uncontested. So we are really happy to see that this lab is in existence, not just because it makes our lives easier, but also because it's a kind of like a milestone, really, in our path to, UX nirvana, something like that. UX enlightenment. UX enlightenment, yeah. UX at Veritas. You're welcome. All right. Do you want me to take it, or you going to take it?
So how can you get involved? There are a few ways. Sylvia talked a little bit about the monthly user testing service that IT offers. So this is free. I would say the scope of it is very narrow. So we're not going to test like an entire application or a website, but just to give an example, let's just say there's a problem where users maybe aren't applying, or maybe if you're on the athletics side, they're not able to get to where they need to purchase tickets. So I would say it should be focused around a particular task. That's the kind of scope of the testing we can do in this particular offering, just given time. But we do, as Sylvia mentioned, about 3 to 5 projects a month. And if you're interested, you can email uxresearch@yale.edu. And we do have a queue, so Sylvia's in demand. And then the library.
We offer. My department offers usability testing services for any and all parts of the library system. So if you're part of the library, I am the person that you can ask to do usability testing and any other types of things at no cost. And you just have to sort of email us. You can email this main email address, and we will get back to you and schedule you for a consultation and put you in. It's not quite a queue. It's more like my email, but kind of a queue. Yeah.
And then we I think, mentioned a little bit about getting involved in, so you can be kind of on both sides. You can be the client, or you can be the participant. So we definitely are trying to build a pool of folks, whether you're a staff member, faculty, student, to sort of be in our pool that we can call upon as different projects come up. And there's some of them are really interesting to just, I think it's a really good experience to be able to be on both sides. So, as Sylvia mentioned, we have some cards here, but you can also go to this URL and sign up. It's a pretty straightforward form. And then the other way to get involved is we have a community of practice, and I think and Jen, we'll give full credit to her. She started this community, and it's definitely grown over the past couple of years, and we want to expand it to students too. When we had the opening of the lab at the end of the semester, students were coming in and saying, UX, I want to understand more. So come the fall, we're going to be expanding this to include them as well. We meet, I think it's every 4 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yes, once a month.
And definitely encourage you to, come. We're going to be formalizing some more programming come the fall, so bringing in speakers and all sorts of things. So
can I add a little?
Yeah.
All right. So we just recently had a service design workshop offered through the community of practice that members of the library, members of ITS both attended, and it was really well received. So that's just sort of like an example of the kinds of things that we try to put on for folks here. And our next meeting is Monday at lunchtime at 17 Hill House. So please, if you are free and you like lunch and you like UX, come on by.
Mm-hmm.